Well, hello there, Malcolm. How are you?
I'm good. How are you, Gail?
I'm doing well, thank you.
It's only been, what, 7 years or so?
Yes.
All right, everybody, we are back. This is Creativity is the Cure. I am your host, Malcolm Moore, and today I have my good friend, Gail Jackson here. How are you doing today, Gail?
I am doing well, Malcolm. Thank you. And how are you?
I'm good. Where are you today? Are you in Anchorage, Alaska?
I am. I am on the land of the Dena'ina people in Anchorage, Alaska.
Wow, that is really cool. And what is the weather like today there?
It is sunny. I think it's maybe low 60s, somewhere around there.
Not bad. That sounds pretty comfortable. Is it about the same all year, or does it change?
Oh, it changes.
What it goes from about what to what? What would you say the span is temperature-wise?
High 80s to low 40s in the summer.
Oh, that's not too bad. I grew up in Rochester, New York. That doesn't sound too different.
Yeah, with the climate changing, it all changes.
It's really affected you guys a lot, huh?
Yes, it has.
Before we get started, I want to do two things. First of all, let's talk about how we know each other. If I remember correctly, I think 7 or 8 years ago, you and I both did a music medicine retreat, I think a couple times with Christine Stevens, who I consider my drum circle mentor. Is that about right? I think 7 or 8 years ago, and we were in Joshua Tree, correct?
Correct. Yes, we attended. I saw you there for two of them for sure.
That's
Yes.
right. Yeah, a lot of good memories there. I think before we get started, I'd like to read right off your website because it really tells a little bit of everything you do. I think you are truly, this is overwhelming, you are truly a Renaissance woman. So here we go. HealthRhythms owner and founder Gail Jackson is a performing artist, engaging facilitator, presenter with a passion for sound, focus on gongs, drumming, and mindfulness. Her mission is to bring these different modalities to her community or wherever in the world she is called to bring well-being to the communities that she serves. Gail facilitates monthly sound immersions, intricate rhythm-based events. That is really amazing, and I haven't seen you for a while, and I'm completely blown away by all the things that you have achieved. Tell me a little bit more about what you do in Alaska and how you got started.
Okay, so how I got started was with the drumming. The spiritual center that I used to attend here, one of the people in the music department told me about a master drummer, Edwina Tyler, who has since transitioned, I think, a couple years ago.
Okay.
And so I looked her up and found out she was going to be at a women's drum camp. Was it Women Drummers International drum camp in California? And so I went, and it was amazing. The facilitators were very inviting. They shared tips. I learned about Brazilian, Moroccan, Afro-Cuban.
How long ago was this?
That was 10 to 11 years ago, if not 12 years ago.
Wow, so you've been doing this for quite a long time.
I have. And the way I felt there, couldn't wait to go back the next year.
Yeah.
So I didn't attend her, Edwina's class that year, but the next year I did. And the first class I missed, I couldn't find it. And then that I heard so much about her class that everybody was talking about it. So I was able to find it that Sunday. And I heard strange sounds in the room, and I looked around and people were crying.
Wow.
And that's where I really learned the power of the drum.
Yes.
And so during that time, I was on the track to become a licensed spiritual practitioner through
Wow.
the Centers for Spiritual Living. And when I was taking my panels, one of the panelists did a workshop on what's your life's purpose. So during that meditation, it came to me that I could become a drum circle facilitator.
Wow. And did you grow up playing drums, or was this all new to you?
I didn't grow up playing drums. My cousins did. And me, I didn't. I joined the band when I was in elementary school. I didn't learn how to read music, played the snare, and yeah, I was just going by what I was hearing
Cool.
because
So
did,
did you learn your basic rudiments?
I did not.
Wow.
Yeah, I didn't. And so I figured, okay, let me try this for a year,
Yeah.
facilitate drum circles and see if I liked it. So I liked it. And again, went to Google, looked up drum circle facilitation, found Arthur Hull, who does a play shop in Hawaii
Of
every
course.
summer.
Yeah.
And I went, and it was life changing to be there on the shore at night, the lights, the tiki torches, the
Yeah.
stars, and meeting people from all over the world.
And
So I could
Arthur's
go,
incredible. Yeah, he's one of the best.
yeah, he is. And to be able to go anywhere in the world and know someone is amazing. And the magic that happens at night when we're doing, what is it? Late night. And so late night can go anywhere from 9 o'clock in the evening until 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, if not longer.
Wow.
And you're just open to what you're feeling and you're playing, and we're all listening to each other,
Yeah.
and magic happens. So that's how I got started with the drumming.
One thing you and I learned, especially together in Joshua Tree, is it goes beyond language, right? People don't have to speak the same language to be able to communicate and feel the passion from each other while they're playing music, right?
So true. Yes. That's how the drumming started. And then with the sound, Arthur would, at the Drum Circle Facilitators Guild conference that happens at the end of February each year, he would do what is called rhythm church. So he designed these chimes that you hit with a mallet, and it has a hole, and they're all on a pentatonic scale, and you hit the chime and it makes like a whoa 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 kind
Yeah.
of sound.
Right.
And there's eggs that are the timekeepers.
Right.
And so the chimes are happening, the eggs are shaking, and at the end of that, I felt so full. And I feel that's what planted the seeds as far as sound for me. And a few years later, a friend of mine invited me to go to St. Louis, and she said we were going to go to a sound bath. Well, at the time, I had no clue what a sound bath was. It wasn't something that it was on my radar here in Anchorage. I picked up the local paper that had all the weekend events, never saw anything like that advertised.
Right.
And so I was in a yoga studio, and we were doing yoga, and I thought, oh, I didn't come here for yoga. And so when she was done warming us up, she said, go ahead and get yourselves comfortable.
Yeah.
And it was the first tap of the gong. I was like, wow. It reminded me of the cartoon that they used to have a long time ago when the woman made the pie and put it on the windowsill. And then the smell from the pie would wafer out the window, and
Yeah.
somebody would smell it and they would just follow that to the pie. And that's how I felt when I heard the sound of the gong.
Right when you heard it the first time.
The first time.
Now, was this one of those smaller gongs or a big one? How big would you say diameter wise? Just take a guess.
I think her gong was either a 28 or 30-inch gong.
Okay.
It was small. It wasn't a big one. So at the end of the session, I asked her where she got her training and everything I could find out. And again, went to Google, looked up the people that she had taken the training from, which was Crown of Eternity. And that's Mike Timborough, who travels from the East Coast to the West Coast every year, playing, doing workshops. And so I looked him up, and that fall, because that would happen in the spring, that fall of that year, I was in Asheville, North Carolina, on a gravel lot looking at this little yellow house because I wanted to know where the training was going to start. And so when I went in, Mike, he is an awesome facilitator. He's not a teacher that says, hey, do it this way. I want you to be just like me. He was like, do your own thing. And I think having a teacher that expresses you to be yourself and bring your full self into the art that you're doing makes a very big difference.
That's
And
wonderful. And I wanted to say too that, so here you are drawn to the gong, drawn to the music, seeing how it helps people, but you also get to travel around the country, right?
yes,
Wow,
yes.
what a journey.
And so later, was it a couple of years ago, there was a course that was on my radar that I had found out about called Deep Listening. And Pauline Oliveros, I don't know if you're familiar with her, but she came up with the term deep listening.
Mhm.
I think she passed 7, 8 years ago, maybe. So there's an institute called the Centers for Deep Listening,
Right.
where when she was younger, growing up in Texas, she put a tape recorder in her window and she recorded the sounds and played it back. And she heard sounds that she did not hear with her ears, even though she was there listening when the recording was happening.
Fascinating.
So that's where the deep listening came from,
Yeah.
listening to the sounds that you hear and the other sounds that are happening also. And so what I learned,
can I ask though, so you're saying you experience the music, but when you go back and listen to the recording, you hear even more? Is that what you're saying?
yes,
Wow,
yes.
that's really cool.
Yeah, it is amazing. And with the gongs and how they resonate, you're hearing that first tap and then the vibrations and all that happens from that first tap of the gong.
And overtones, right?
Yes, the overtones. And what I learned was the drumming, the gong, and listening deeper, all of that goes hand in hand.
Hmm.
And to bring it all together is connecting to the heartbeat.
I don't have a lot of experience with gongs like you do, but this is making me remember when we were with Christine Stevens and we would take the little thumb pianos or the kalimbas and we would hold them over our hearts and we could feel the vibrations. So would you say this is that feeling but multiplied?
Oh, multiplied many times. Many times in a gentle way.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So if I didn't have my experience with drumming and facilitating,
Yeah.
my deep listening course would be a lot different. So I can facilitate deep listening sessions where we take movement, sound, and dreams and use those to open up our creative expression.
Do you just go into this experience and see what happens, or do you ever set an intent ahead of time? Like, let's say you're going to a group of people that have experienced trauma. Do you have an intent, or you just kind of do what you do and see what happens?
Ooh, no. I ground myself, set the intention that the participants get what is theirs to receive.
Okay.
Yeah, and so when you said trauma, I had a woman who attended one of my community sound meditations, and she had emailed me asking if I would do a session for her family. Apparently, they had a home invasion.
Okay.
And so I had done a sound session for the mother, the father, and I think their son was 8.
Wow.
Yeah, 8 years old.
That's
So
really
I
young.
had, a session for them, and he was right there with his parents. And younger kids, they can sit through or lay down through a sound session. But it was very healing for the family to be able to go through the sound session after experiencing that traumatic event.
And what kinds of things did you see? How did it help them? What were some of the results?
Well, the dad was able to rest, the mom said, and her son couldn't stop talking about it. And she felt a lot more grounded within herself
That's
through the
wonderful.
experience. Yeah, afterwards.
Now, let me ask you, because I know a lot of my listeners are drummers, and I'm a drummer. I've tried gongs a little bit. I would say the drums that I've felt the most vibrations from are those Taos drums from New Mexico. And you and I know about these because at the music medicine retreat, one of our mutual friends brought a really big one. So if you don't know what this is, imagine like a real part of a trunk of a tree with animal skin tied over it. Going from an organic drum that's maybe made of wood, goat skin, things like that, to a metallic instrument, a gong, how different are those vibrations to you, and what are the different attributes of what draws you to the gong more than any other percussion instrument?
I would say with the drums, I'm drawn to the low sounding bass type drums and low drums.
Yeah.
And same with the gongs. The lower gongs, I gravitate toward those. I'm not the high splashy sounding anyone that's like chalkboard, old school chalkboard type thing.
Yeah.
But the ones that I can feel somatically in my body are the ones that pull me so much.
Do you ever go into a situation where you're going to use music medicine? And when I say that, I mean you're going to have an intent to help somebody that's struggling with something. Do you ever come away from the experience of helping someone else and it has healed you or helped you in some way?
I would say yes. And some, it's not the big things, it's the small things. I facilitated a drumming session for one of the indigenous corporations here. They have a program for children at risk and families at risk. So I was facilitating a circle with them, and one of the moms was sitting on the outskirts. She wasn't going to participate. So we were drumming, and then one of the counselors reminded me that the kids take a break during their sessions with them. So they took a break, and then when we came back, I saw this movement out of the right side of my eye, and it was the mom saying, "Wait a minute, I'm getting in here. I'm getting in on this." And the kids the youth, they were having a lot of fun because I brought games in. And they were having a lot of fun. It was a lot of laughter. Right. And the mom saw that it was fun and it was okay. And that's what I feel brought her to the circle.
So she felt safe?
Yes. Yeah. And a lot of the times it's when I did an artisan residency at one of our elementary schools, and I had I don't know if they termed them special ed. So I had 4 students, and one of the students came in, had a furrowed up brow and kind of mad. Yeah. And in the middle of the session, that went away. There was a smile.
Awesome.
And engagement. Her and another student were kind of picking at each other, and then they were playing the instruments with each other. So having that transformation makes so much. It's like a double-edged sword. What they get, I get also. Yeah. And those good feelings. Yes.
If you spend so much time helping people in need and doing what you do with your gongs and other instruments, do you ever need a time for self-healing that you will go to a peer, maybe another sound healer, just to kind of replenish yourself so you're ready for, because when you do work to help others, you can get drained pretty easily if you're not careful, right?
Oh, yes.
So what works for you?
So what works for me, I have a daily formal practice of meditation and going out in nature. I attend a weekly Sangha that helps me. And a lot of my traveling has to do with professional development.
Right.
So when I go to my gong trainings, there's usually a sound bath that happens that evening, and I am up front with my mat, ready, pour it on me, it on me.
Bring it on. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And then, what is it? April, I was in Chicago for a friend's celebration of life. And I have a brother drummer friend that lives in Chicago. And he and his wife happened to be having a sound bath that weekend that I was there. And I went to join and to receive. And it was beautiful, beautiful.
Sounds like a pretty reciprocal practice that you're involved in.
Oh, yes.
How small is your smallest gong, and how big is the biggest gong that you've used?
The smallest I'd say that I use, I have a 24 earth gong, I think is a 24 inch.
Okay, so
And I,
that's like the size of a regular crash cymbal or a ride cymbal.
yeah, hmm and
Gotcha.
I walk around the room with that. And the biggest one I have is a 44-inch sun gong.
And when you say Sun Gong, is that the brand?
It is, I don't know the brand, but that's the name of the gong. It's a sun
Oh,
gong.
okay. So I was going to ask you, where do you get your gongs from? Do you get them from big companies like Zildjian or handmade ones or Turkish?
Well, when I attend the drum camp in Pennsylvania through Nine Ways Academy,
Okay.
when you attend the camp there and you buy a gong, they'll ship it to you free.
Whoa.
So my 44-inch, it came from Steve Weiss. I think the other three came from Gongs Unlimited, and two of them came from a friend that used to drum, part of his kit.
Very cool. So there's some personality involved in all these.
Oh yeah.
What is it like
But
going through an airport with a bunch of gongs? Do you have any good stories?
I
Step
have
aside, ma'am.
can't say that I have I'm sorry, I have an 18-inch Grata Sonora gong.
Okay.
When I was in Italy a couple years ago, I bought an 18-inch Grata Sonora gong, and it's in a black case. And I also put in there my 22-inch ocean drum,
Oh, yeah.
which is
Love
it's
those.
called a theta drum, which I have a big collection of ocean drums, and that one by far has the closest sound to me of the ocean.
Yeah, I love those. I have a couple, but I'm sure you have fancier ones than me. And if people don't know, ocean drums are these big circular drums. They've got like a thick side, a thin side, and then often little metal beads in them. And if you carefully move them in a circle or back and forth, like Gail says, they sound like ocean waves, right?
Yes.
I just completed 12 years of teaching elementary kids and middle school kids, and boy, they love it when I bring out the nature drums like the rain stick and the thunder drum and
Mm,
the ocean drum. Sometimes we try to make like a big, like we're outside in nature and everybody takes their turns doing the different parts and we make a rainstorm.
mm. Yeah, yeah. I had one of my drumming buds down in Florida, Steve Turner, put out a video of him he was doing a thunderstorm. And I think from what I was watching, he had the kids snapping their fingers to
Yeah,
make the sounds of the rain, which I had never saw before.
those are
And
fun.
then,
Yeah.
and I thought that was so cool.
Yeah, you don't even need a drum, right?
Right,
You start out with a
right.
little tiny tapping and then it builds up to slapping your hands on your knees and then stomping and then you bring it back. And if you get a class of 30 kids, it's really wild.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty cool. I've never seen that before.
I think that goes to show too that to make music, you don't always have to have instruments. I'll never forget. In my 30s, I was a minister and I traveled to Kigoma, Tanzania. And I'll never forget going to a church. It was just like a dirt floor and they had some walls, but just wide open windows and no instruments. And I'm thinking, what's going to happen here? And the congregation came in, and not only did their singing blow me away because they were singing octaves above and below what I could ever do, but the complex clapping rhythms, the polyrhythms, I could barely keep up, and I consider myself a pretty good drummer. And I
Mm,
think what you're saying about the rainstorm that you can make with your body, same thing. It's really incredible, and I think that rhythm is inherent to humans. And like Christine Stevens used to tell us, the first drum was the heartbeat, right?
yes, yes.
What is your first creative memory?
I would say in art class, making a pig out of clay and also working on the pottery wheel in elementary school, creating pottery,
Yeah.
not knowing how this clump of clay is going to turn out, just feeling into it and listening to the music and letting it unfold.
Oh, so audio and visual together. That sounds really cool.
Yeah.
How about your parents when you were growing up? Were they creative?
I would say not, because I thought about that and often think, and I would say no. I would say ancestors, maybe. Well, not maybe, yes, ancestors, but my parents, no, no. My mom would play songs and try to sing to them. And yeah, my dad had music going, but I didn't hear any, drumming or any instruments being played or, yeah, the singing. My mom tried, like I said, and that was about it.
And you've always lived in Anchorage, Alaska, correct?
No, I was born and raised in New Jersey.
Oh, okay. So how did you end up in Alaska?
So after I went to school in West Virginia, I went to Marshall. And so after school, I hung around the tri-state area there, Ohio, West Virginia, and Kentucky. And then maybe 5, 6 years after I graduated, some friends asked if I wanted to go to Alaska. And I said, sure, why not? I thought that I had my dream job, so to speak, of working at the Federal Bureau of Prisons. And I ended up breaking my leg playing basketball. And so when my leg healed, it turned out I had a torn meniscus, which even extended the healing process. And so they said that I could reapply once my leg healed, but then there's an age cutoff. And so I was too old after my leg healed to reapply.
Right.
And so walking away from that, I thought, okay, it wasn't meant to be. So when the invite came to go to Alaska, yeah, sure, why not? I had went back to the same job that I left for the other job. And it's like, okay, been there, done that. I'm ready for something new. So I came up here sight unseen, knew nothing about the long winters, the earthquake, the short summers, nothing. And the two people that I came up with, they had been here before. But it was a beautiful experience coming up here because we drove enclosed trailers and we camped out everywhere we went.
Wow. How long
So
did that take?
it was, 7, 8 days? It was beautiful camping out and being out in nature, seeing the wildlife. One of the campgrounds we stayed at in Canada was the Elking campground. So I heard like this thunderous sound. And what is that? So I opened the tent and I looked out, and through the mist, I can see elk going through the campground.
Incredible. Wow.
And it was so amazing. So amazing. And so I've been here 25 years this past June 1st. And I say I was born and raised in New Jersey, and I was reborn in Alaska.
So Alaska feels like home.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
I hope I get to go there someday. That sounds amazing.
You have a place to stay.
I appreciate it. Yeah. And if you're ever out here in Palmdale, we got a room for you too.
Thank you.
I think I know what you're going to say to this, but do you think creativity could be implemented in curing people or at least helping people with mental health struggles such as depression and anxiety? What has been your experience with that?
I would say yes. And one of the biggest hurdles is that the person know that they can do it, because we are so conditioned in this society that everything is outside of ourselves.
Right.
So it's implementing that in the program. And we're also conditioned, if it's music, that rhythm looks like this in this group of people. And if you don't look like this, you don't have rhythm.
Right.
And I hear that all the time. I don't have rhythm. I don't have rhythm. And I say, if you have a heartbeat,
Yeah,
you have rhythm.
that's right.
And it's creating the space, and also whoever the facilitator is, to help create that space and that presence, so that that person knows that it's okay. It's okay to take that initial step to pick up that pen, the crayon, the paper, the instrument, to take that first initial movement into creativity.
Yeah, and I think that, and you know this, everybody's got a different sense of rhythm. There's a
Yes.
lot of modern music that I like, but one thing that kind of bothers me is everything is so auto corrected, whether it's auto tune or beat detective, which is how they fix drums. I kind of miss live bands that I grew up with where the music would breathe. It wasn't perfect, it would speed up and slow down. And that goes for a lot of kinds of music all over the world. And I think with what you do and what we've done together with drum circles, it's okay if everybody's not exactly together and they're playing their own rhythms. There's really a beauty in that.
I highly agree. And also to when I do team building, I highlight that because we're all different. And coming together, we can express our uniqueness. And like a wheel, we're all spokes of that wheel in different ways to have that wheel to run smoothly, so to speak. And sometimes there's bumps. And how do we come together to create something new?
Right. And that's just like real life. I mean, you could say in music, you make a mistake and the note you do after that can make the mistake work. And I think that applies to anything in life, right? What are you going to do when something unexpected occurs?
Right.
So, with this same part of your brain, the creative part of your brain, the improvisational part of your brain, have you ever used that part of yourself to solve serious challenges in your life?
I would say so. One that comes to mind when I was living in Kentucky, I was in law enforcement.
Did that
And
come before the music, the law enforcement?
it did, because when I was down in Kentucky, I was doing a lot of road biking. Before I came to Alaska, road biking, hiking, I was doing a lot of that, and music was not even in the equation. That's why I say when I came to Alaska, I was reborn.
Right, right.
And so there was an emergency that happened at the local jail, and people were like, "Well, how do we get the ambulance up here because something happened with the elevator, and a couple of the people that were incarcerated needed to be transported out." And so I just started, "Hey, let's get this there well cleared out," because they were painting, and so there was a lot of stuff in there. Just moving quickly to get that done.
Right. It sounds to me, at least from what you've told me today about your life, the whole thing is improvisational. You
Oh yeah.
often set intentions, but then unexpected things occurred. And it sounds like most of them led to the most important things in your life.
Hmm. True. So I have a lot of those moments of figuring out stuff, and yeah, it just happens. And I think with the music, it keeps those patterns in my head open for that creative experience to be just like second nature, if not first nature in some instances.
Right. Because we have no control of our life other than choosing which way we're going to react to a circumstance, right?
Right.
Well, tell me a little bit more about when you were a correctional officer and you told me you did drum circles at a women's prison. Were you already doing music first, or how did that all collide together, those two things, your music and your job as a correctional officer?
I started there shortly after I arrived here. And so as a probation officer, after I left being a correctional officer here, I went back to the women's prison, and having worked there, still knowing the superintendent really helps, because if you are somebody that is fresh off the streets, so to speak, or out in the community, it's difficult to get in. So having that connection, I wanted to give back to community, give back to the women that are incarcerated that don't have that opportunity of being in community with one another in a different way.
Right.
And so I approached the superintendent about coming in, doing drum circles, and she was, yes, sure, come on in.
I've got this
And
crazy idea.
it was challenging because self-esteem,
Right.
how a lot of the women saw themselves, their lived life experience, for them to try something, it was difficult.
Yeah.
And we had moments that it was very highlighted where there was a young woman that had drummed before in one of her communities out in the village. And when some of the women saw that, they kind of sat back. And to have someone that had experienced drumming show the other women about drumming, this is what you can do, it was awesome to see that. And I think if I were to go back, I would have a video so that the women can see what drum circles are about, using the different drums that I have and not the traditional indigenous drum circles.
Right. Right. I think when I've told people before that from time to time did drum circles, they think, oh, like when you're on Venice Beach and it's really loud and everybody's going crazy. I'm like, no. Most of the ones we do are music medicine. We try to help people and it's very calm. So sounds like you did the same thing. So what kind of drums did you use when you were in the prison? Where did you get the drums and what type of ones did you have with you?
Let's see, I have had Remo drums, djembes, a few of small handheld type touristy drums, and some of the drums, some frame drums. Some of the drums I reached out to folks. This was when I was first starting, reaching out to folks in the community if they had any instruments, percussion that was sitting in the closet or the corner gathering dust, if they would like to make a donation.
Yeah.
So I come that way. And then Arthur Hall designed these nesting drums.
Right.
That I think there's 6 or 7 in the set. And I brought those in with me also. And they have mallets. So I had those.
The nesting drums, if I remember correctly what you're talking about, it's when you have 5 or 6 drums and there's a little one and then one's a little bit bigger and they kind of go together like a Russian doll, right?
Yes.
So they're easy to transport because they all fit inside one thing.
Yes.
And did you get to do any of your gong work with the women there, or did that happen later?
I did not. When I thought about approaching them, COVID happened.
Oh, geez. Yeah.
And which it's not and then they had a lot of problems there with drugs and different things happening. So that kind of squashed that idea. And it's still simmering because in January, I received a grant through the Alaska Council on the Arts, the National Endowment of the Arts, and Rasmussen Foundation, and also to address isolation.
Yeah.
So with that grant, I plan on going to some of the assisted living centers here.
Yeah.
And the sound, I have miniature gongs and other ambient sounding instruments to bring into those facilities. Also, I'm working with one of the teachers in the high school because teenagers are a group that's on my focus to introduce the gongs to, because I have the smaller gongs and I also have a couple hand pans because I had been collecting these instruments way before this grant happened. And when the grant happened, it was like, okay, I am on the right path because here is another way of continuing this vision that I have.
Yeah.
And so I'm looking forward to doing that. And with the work with the women in the prison doing sound, It will be sound and also mindfulness, because with the sounds, it may bring up traumatic images or
Right.
memories for them. So having the mindfulness as part of the sound to ground them through the session, I think will go hand in hand.
I think it'd be great if you can do the work with teenagers. I recently spent a few years teaching teenagers, and I think they're so stuck in their bubbles and their social media and only being on their phones. It must be great, whoever you work with, to put away their devices and have
Mhm.
eye contact and use their ears. I mean, what is that like? There must be a big revelation coming from people. I didn't need that device. I had a good time with Gail for 2 hours playing gongs.
Yeah, so we're going to first start with the body because that's our first instrument, and doing some breath work
Right.
because anxiety is part of it also, and that's on the rise. So having the breath work and then playing a sound meditation for the students, and then having them create their own sound meditation. Like you said, listening to one another, putting the phone down and seeing what they can create.
Yeah, that's really beautiful. And it sounds, I'm looking at your website, it sounds and looks like you really have a lot of great support from different companies and a lot of really cool certifications. Who are some of the companies that support you that you're thankful that they're, you know, getting you grants or getting you instruments? Who do you work closely with?
I would say Remo. I am a endorsed facilitator through them, wellness facilitator through them.
They're great.
And they've helped me get drums up here, which would be very expensive. I'm grateful for Remo and to be part of the Remo family. And also the Rasmussen Foundation, which is a local philanthropic organization here in Alaska that help artists with their creativity. So there's a grant that you can apply for, and also a fellowship. So one year I received a grant, a project grant, and then another year I received a fellowship. And through the fellowship, I was able to go into a recording studio, make some MP3s, and also travel. I think my trip to Italy was part of that.
Italy, when did you do that?
I did that a couple years ago.
Wow.
And oh my goodness, I went to Calcutta, Italy. And so Calcutta is like a medieval town where you can only walk to get there.
Oh, you got
And
to
they
carry your gongs.
Uh, well, luckily, Grata Sonora, who helped put on this gong camp, they make gongs. So there were plenty gongs to play. There was 60, 18-inch up to 60-inch gongs, and they filled many rooms to play. And they were local young men that carried our luggage up to the village there.
Wow. I would
And
love to
with
see photos or footage of this. This sounds exciting.
Yeah, it was. Food was fabulous, all vegetarian, really good food. And what I thought that I would walk away from that gong camp knowing more about sound, what I learned was about community,
Yeah.
how community can come together and help support one another. So the couple, the Grata Sonora couple, Madhava, he makes the gongs, and Margarita, she does the artwork on the gongs. So they work together to create this business. And they have friends that came together where we ate in the restaurant. There was a group of women that the cook, the baker, mother, daughter. And then there's the hospitality people that have where we live. They arranged our living arrangements. And then there was another guy that reconstructed a whole medieval village who ended up in jail one time because they thought that he had stolen artifacts. And he did.
Jeez.
He created these artifacts. So the different people that came together in that community so that we could have the best experience ever is what I walked away with. community coming together to help support community.
Well, it must be amazing for you going to all these places in the world and finding that people have a lot more in common than different, and you can communicate even beyond language.
Yes. Yeah. And in different ways, the drum, the gongs. Oh yeah. So much.
Yeah, the world needs a lot of healing right now. There's a lot of not so positive things going on.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about the movie We All Just Need to Gong.
That came up with Jens, who is in Germany. He is a connector, mover and shaker, as well as John Pritchard, who directed the movie. And so Jens met me at the first Gong Summit that happened in 2019 in Vermont. And he wanted to know if I would be interested in being in the movie. And yes, sure. I'll say yes and figure it out later. And it was and still is a phenomenal experience because one Monday a month we meet. So I meet with other gong players from around the world and we share what's going on, what we're doing, what we're experimenting with. And it has been eye-opening and also another moment to learn of how sound is changing people's lives.
So this is a documentary, and can people view it anywhere? Is it on YouTube, or how do you see it?
They would Google, we all just need to gong, and then the information is right there.
I can't wait to watch this. That sounds really cool.
It was a cool experience.
So I'm going to read a quote from one of our friends that we've spoken of a lot today, Christine Stevens. She once said, "Both meditation and drumming help us get out of our heads and into our hearts. They go about it in different ways. In meditation, placing our attention on the breath occupies the mind. In drumming, the rhythm becomes a mantra that captures our attention. You can't drum while thinking. Both act as mind sweepers to clear the mental space of worries and negative thought patterns." How would you apply that to your experience?
I would say for myself with drumming, I know when I am locked in, connected to what the rhythm is, it's meditative for me.
Yeah.
And then sometimes when thoughts come in, start thinking about something, then I lose the rhythm. So it's just like the thoughts come in and take me away. So being in that meditative rhythm of the drum and that somatic experience going hand in hand for me is meditative. Also with meditation, when those thoughts come in and not being taking the bait of those thoughts and coming back to my breath, maybe a happy place that I like being, or feeling my feet on the floor to bring myself back to the practice.
It sounds like a lot of that is when you're joining a drum circle or participating. How is it for you as a leader to keep the focus but still be in the moment and you probably have to think ahead, right, of what you're going to do to keep everybody together? And then do you ever get to the point where you have an intention, you're leading a rhythm, but something unexpected happens and you stay and you go with that?
Yes, because you come in with a plan, and what I've learned is you work with what the group gives you, because what I may have, it may not be what the group is wanting or where the group is able to go. So when things are really clicking, sometimes I'll have someone will be doing the fish story. So when you're doing the fish story, you start off with a small fish, and then as the story continues, it gets bigger and bigger. So someone will start off with a rhythm, and then the next person adds to that rhythm until everybody has added something and everyone is playing. Sometimes the group connects and it's awesome, and then sometimes it's a little off.
Yeah.
So going with when the group is connecting, and then also when it's not connecting and adding something to, like a special sauce to enhance what is being played. And it's beautiful. And like I said, sometimes it's throwing it out and going with what the group is coming with themselves. I'm guiding. I'm not there to take over because I want to play as much as they're playing.
Right.
So be sitting back with the group and playing and enjoying what is coming up in the moment.
Yeah, and as a leader, you can rein it in if you need to.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
It makes me think of when I'm teaching students. I often go in with a lesson plan, but boy, if they get to something they really like, I kind of throw the rest of it out and we stay there because we want to keep people engaged, right?
Yes. Yes.
All right. Well, before we go, I'd like to help you promote a bunch of stuff. I'm looking at your website right now. It's creativerhythms.org, right?
Yes.
Is it true you are on Facebook and Instagram?
Yes.
And if people want to hear some of your music,
It's on Bandcamp under my name. And also on my website, there's a tab that takes you right there.
and which is that the music one?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm trying it right here. Very cool. And what kind, do you have some events coming up? I think you told me you're going to be out near me next couple of months. Are you going to go to Joshua Tree or Palm Springs? Where are you going?
Between Palm Springs and Joshua Tree, I somewhere in there, last time when I was there in May, I was in Coachella for a retreat. I am doing the medicine wheel.
And what's that for people that don't know?
The medicine wheel. So the medicine wheel that we're working on is the Peruvian indigenous tradition.
Ooh, a little cajon playing, right?
Yeah. So I am taking the medicine wheel with Danny Burling.
Wow.
Was it Your Soul's Destiny, and working on myself in order to be present with my clients on the table. And so when I go back in August, I will be in the East finishing the medicine wheel. And I've started to take clients, which I can do virtually and or in person, working on clearing emotions and feelings, because those emotions and feelings are what we are attracting in our lives when we don't look at those feelings or try to suppress them, because our feelings are our GPS. And when we are feeling inadequate, when we feel abandoned, that's how we move through life. And so clearing those feelings of not enough, of abandonment, we're able to clear that pathway to have a more fulfilling life.
Wow. Sounds like a lot of people could use that, including myself. So you brought up a good point. Anyone, anywhere in the world could get a hold of you if they wanted to do some healing work. And the different ways is they can keep an eye on your schedule, see where you are, but they could also do it by Zoom too, right?
Yes, they can contact me for an individual sound session. I can set up and do individual sound sessions, and also the energy clearing work through the medicine wheel also.
Wow. That is really amazing. Well, Gail, I think we're going to need to do this again in the next few months because I have so many more questions for you. And it was so great to reconnect with you. And I hope we can get together this summer. I'd love to catch up with you. And if you're going to do Peruvian music, I'm going to have to tell our friend Gino Gamboa, who taught me all the Peruvian rhythms on the cajon.
Oh, cool. He was up here.
He was in Alaska?
Yes,
What?
he was in Alaska. I had something going on, so I wasn't able to go to watch his performance, but we did communicate.
He is one of the brightest, most compassionate souls I've ever met in my life.
Oh.
He every year we do a cajon festival at Remo in Valencia, and
Okay.
he's open to all kinds of ideas. Sometimes I've brought my friend who's a puppeteer from the Henson Company, and we do some drumming together. But this year, that guy wasn't available, so I brought my 7th and 8th grade choir, And it was
Uh-huh.
so fun to have a room of people drumming with, what was it? Probably about 15 teenage girls singing along. I mean, he's such a
Mm.
great guy. And he endorses Remo, but he also makes his own cajones and he invites other companies to come. What an amazing human he is.
Nice. Yeah, I look forward to connecting with you. Hopefully we can do that.
Yeah, we're definitely going to make it happen. I don't know if I'll make it up to Alaska, but if I get a chance to, I'm going to get a truck and fill it with more drums for you.
Thank you.
All right, Gail, it was so good to talk to you.
Likewise, Malcolm. Take
All
care.
right, take care.